Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Ponderosa Life and another Story Sunday. My name is Bonnie, and this is my handsome horse, Fabio. The reason why I picked Fabio for today's episode is because Fabio is a Palomino, and so was the famous Mr. Ed. Now, come on, everybody, sing it with me. A horse is a horse, of course, and no one can talk to a horse, of course, that is, of course, unless the horse is the famous Mr. Ed. Show hands to everybody that sang with me. So, today's episode, I would like to talk mostly about Mr. Ed and his life, who he was before the show, and what happened to him after the show. So, I will begin by answering the question, who was Mr. Ed? He was an American saddlebred, part Arabian horse. His father was the saddlebred and his mother was the Arabian, who I found out was originally from Poland, and they brought her to the United States. He was born in 1949 in Los Angeles area, but sources disagree on where he was born because others say that he was born on Harvester Farms in Chatsworth, California, and he was named Bamboo Harvester. His name definitely makes me think that he was born on the Harvester Farm. So I guess we will never know exactly where he was born, but he was born in California. Also, on his pedigree papers, it said that he was charm gold in color, and I have never heard this before. So I looked it up, and when I Google searched it, all I kept getting was horse charm necklaces, but not an actual color of a horse. So if anybody has heard of a horse's color being called charm gold, I'd really like to know if there's like a difference between the color and Palomino. But anyway, Bamboo was a Palomino, like my handsome boy here, Fabio. And for my horse listeners, he matured to be 15.3 hands, which in my opinion is a great size for a horse. So, how did this saddlebred cross Arabian become the famous Mr. Ed? His owners showed their horses. So Bamboo started his life as a show horse, and everybody said he was known to be this beautiful horse that came in with this energetic energy that caught everybody's eye. So he was an eye catcher. It was said that he trotted in the Rose Bowl Parade in California. So I'm not quite sure how he got discovered by the producers of the show, but I do know he wasn't the show's first choice. The first horse casted for Mr. Ed was actually a chestnut who had a bit of a breakdown for the first episode, which was called The Wonderful World of Wilbur Pole, which was never seen and it did never get any airtime. After the chestnut gelding proved not to be a good fit for Mr. Ed, Bamboo stepped in for the second pilot episode, and the rest is history. And we all know the famous Mr. Ed. And Bamboo, unofficially from then on, was named till the day he died, Mr. Ed. There were lots of rumors about how they actually got Mr. Ed to move his lips. One of the many theories was Alan Young, who was the co-star, also called Wilbur in the show, the one Mr. Ed only talked to in the beginning of the show. And he accidentally started one of the rumors that they used a lot when people would say, well, how'd they get the horse to move its lips? And he completely did this by accident. He did not mean to do this, but he was talking to a group of kids, and I guess the kids asked, how did they get the horse to move his lips? And he didn't want to take like the fun out of the show by being technical. So he just simply said that they put peanut butter on Mr. Ed's lips, and Mr. Ed would try to move his lip and tongue around trying to get the peanut butter. And never did Mr. Young think, or Alan Young, think that that rumor was going to spread probably any further than the room he told it in, but it actually spread around the world, and people still think to this day that they used peanut butter to get him to move his lips. Another terrible rumor, and this one's just terrible, was that they used electric shock on him, that they would shock him with little bolts of electricity to make him move his lips. And if anybody knows anything about horses, it would cause a horse to bolt or jump or move around and be extremely uncomfortable. So this is just a terrible rumor, and it was absolutely not true. They did not use electricity and shock Mr. Ed. So here's what I found to be true. Mr. Ed was trained by a very popular horse trainer at the time. His name was Les Hilton, and he had to be very clever in getting Mr. Ed to do all of the tricks that were performed in the show. Les Hilton also had some experience with getting a horse to appear like they were talking, because he also trained the mules in the movie Francis the Talking Mule. So he had a little bit of experience on what to do to make it look like a horse was talking. And Alan Young said that in the beginning, they would put a nylon string in Mr. Ed's mouth, and he was trying to get it out of his mouth, which would give the appearance of talking. But here's the really cool thing. Over time, Mr. Ed had learned to move his lips on cue without using the string. And Les Hilton would end up, the cue to get Mr. Ed to talk would be he would tap Mr. Ed's lower leg. And if you ever notice in the show, Mr. Ed is almost always behind a stall door. So I wonder where Les Hilton was. Perhaps behind the stall door? I bet he was. But what was very, very cool and shows the intelligent level of animals, and Mr. Ed in this case, eventually down the road, Mr. Ed had learned that whenever Alan Young was talking, he wasn't supposed to. And he would wait for Alan Young to stop talking, and he would automatically start doing the trick of moving his lips around. And so he became easier and easier to do shows with because he had learned the pattern. Alan Young even said that after the show was over and Mr. Ed went to live on a farm, he would still go to the farm and visit Mr. Ed, and he would go riding with Mr. Ed and Les Hilton. And even when Les and Alan were talking to each other, whenever Alan was done talking, Mr. Ed would still move his lips. So anyway, back to the show. Mr. Ed went on to learn all of the tricks that were used on the show: answering the phones, laying down, pawing, kicking a bucket or objects, picking things up, anything that you saw on the show. Now, there was a stunt double named Pumpkin, who was an American quarter horse, and he was used to do like stand-ins, but it was said he was only used one time, and that what he would mostly do is make public appearances. So Mr. Ed did almost all of his scenes in one take. He was actually called the one-take wonder because he would get the scene done and it would be over. And he was also known to be a bit of a diva on the set. he would notice when they started taking the cameras and turning off the lights and everything, and he would just walk right off and go go over to wherever they kept him when they weren't shooting episodes. He was also spoiled. They say that he was given 20 gallons of sweet tea and blue M&Ms. Don't know why the blue ones, but he preferred blue M&Ms. Which, I must say, as a horse owner, please don't give that much tea to your horse. And please, no on the M&Ms, okay? Just saying. So Mr. Ed went on to win several animal acting awards. I did not know. I mean, I knew that they gave awards to animals, but I didn't know what they were called. He won 4 Patsies in a row, which are awards for animal performers, and it actually got started in 1939 by the American Humane Society, which I found very interesting. Now, the TV show was canceled in 1966 after 6 seasons and a total of 143 episodes, all filmed in black and white. I found the number of episodes to be quite amazing. 143 episodes. For a horse to go on the set and film that many episodes, to me, is absolutely amazing. And to keep him fresh, and all of the ideas that they had to come up with to get Mr. Ed to continue doing everything to keep everybody entertained. Like I said in the beginning, Les Hilton, the owner or the trainer, had to be very creative to get Mr. Ed to do all of his tricks and stuff. He absolutely must have 143 episodes. That is a lot of creativity and a lot of imagination. So anyway, the show was canceled. The excuse for the show to be canceled was that it was too shepherd-like. I guess it was just people really weren't into farm shows anymore. It was the late 60s, it was 1966, and there was a lot of, other movements going on during that time in history. So maybe people just lost interest in it. But anyway, I thought it was kind of an interesting reason for canceling a show. Also, they tried to bring back Mr. Ed in 2004, but they said there just wasn't enough interest, so they never got past the pilot episode, which really bums me out because I didn't know that, and I would have loved to have watched another series of a Mr. Ed, but I guess now we'll never know what it was going to be like. So after the show, Mr. Ed went to live with his new owner, and you can kind of guess because I kind of gave it away a little bit ago, but his trainer, Les Hilton, took ownership of him after the show. And as I mentioned before, Alan Young, his co-star, continuously would go visit and ride Mr. Ed, and it sounds like he really enjoyed his retirement with Les Hilton. And now, here's the sad part. What happened to Mr. Ed, and unfortunately, how Mr. Ed died. It's very unclear and confusing. Much like the beginning of his life, there is no clear truth to what happened to him, but here's what I was able to find out. He started to have health issues with his kidneys, his ligaments, and his hooves. And the first story is that when he was 19 years old, some people say that he was 20, so he could have been 19 and a half. But he was given a tranquilizer when his caregiver thought he was having a seizure, and he was overdosed, which caused his death. The second story is that because he was suffering so much from his health problems, that he was humanely euthanized. No matter which story is true, it is very, very sad. And both stories say that he was cremated after his death. Now, there's one more, not exactly sure what happened, story, is to where he was put to rest. Alan Young said that Les Hilton scattered his ashes in a secret place and he never revealed where that spot was. The second story is that he was moved to Snodgrass Farms in Oklahoma, and that is actually where he died, and his ashes were buried there where there is a headstone. But many people say that it's just a memorial stone and that only Les Hilton knows where his ashes went. The headstone was actually donated. So money was raised by a radio station and they donated the headstone in the 90s. So I don't know which story is true, but in either case, the headstone is a beautiful and great way for fans to go and visit Mr. Ed and keep Mr. Ed's legacy alive. Here's what I would like to think. I would like to think that when Mr. Ed was cremated, maybe Les Hilton took a part of Mr. Ed with him and scattered it in a secret place. And maybe the other part is under the headstone where people get to go and visit. But we shall never know. Thankfully, we will be able to continue to keep Mr. Ed alive by his stories being retold and his shows being rewatched. And there you have it, the life of Bamboo Harvester, aka Mr. Ed. Please join me tomorrow for Motivation Monday. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And I will talk to you again next time. Bye.